Welcome back to the Bad Marketing Podcast. We got a special guest today flying in from Washington. Is that right?
Yeah,
or are you in
DC.
Virginia? It's like right on
DC.
the line.
Maryland side.
Maryland side. You guys may know him as CEO of Iman Ghazi at one point. You may know him as a CEO of Joel Kaplan's companies. CEO?
COO.
COO.
I don't really know. It was
Head of
software,
operations.
whatever it was there. Yeah.
Very involved there. What you don't know is that he actually started originally in the agency space. That's where I got to know Paul and got to meet you in that presentation I did in Miami. We got to kind of know each other a little bit more. I told Joel right that day, I said, this guy's really mature. He's got a great head on his shoulders.
I don't believe that in the slightest, but I appreciate it.
You were sitting 2 seats to my right. I still remember exactly where you're sitting. Your legs crossed over, sitting back.
That's definitely me.
Yep, 100%. So I'm telling you my word is my word. That is exactly what I said.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
I was very impressed by you. I forgot, what did you get the agency to?
120, I think, on the top month. It was a baby agency. It was a messy agency. It's nothing to brag about by any means. I've learned way more from how much that failed. I sold it. Even the sale was as much of a failure as you can get into. Learned more from that than I did from any of the accomplishments.
So how did you get into that space? Did you watch a Joel course? Is that how you?
No, I never got into the Thai stuff, the Iman stuff, the Joel stuff.
It's funny, you worked for them all, but like.
Yeah, I think I had a friend who was crushing it with Cairo. And I thought to myself, I was in the SaaS space. I was running a SaaS team in sales. And I thought, if my friend can make 30K, 40K a month, I know I can.
Yeah.
And so that's what got me into it. And then got up to 10 or 20 something thousand a month from just, learning how he was doing some Facebook outbound stuff at the time. And then when I got to like the 20 something per month mark, got a call with Joel's team. And that's when I started to get into that world of where you were and everything like that. When we met, I didn't have an agency anymore. I was working with Joel at that point. And so I had already left the agency and such, and got into the next venture. And that really started the info product line that I've kind of done for the last 2.5, 3 years at this point.
But before you got into that, you got 20K, 30K a month, just pure grit, it sounds like.
Yeah,
just like sales.
Outbound, closing calls, demo.
Quantity.
The whole, yeah. I mean, hundreds of messages a day, probably dozens of disco calls a day, and then as many closing calls as I could get on. So for 2 months, 3 months, just rep and repeat.
Okay, and how did that go? So why would you go from 100K a month agency to let me go work for this guy? Number one, did something go wrong? What lessons were learned from what happened in the agency side? Like, I'm curious because not many people ever get to 100K a month in their life, and you did. Obviously, that's top line. That's not profit, right? But something must have driven you insane.
A few things, yeah. Number one is I'm a firm believer now, and I think that your agency is a perfect example of this. You've been around for a long time, right? But as fast goes up, goes down, kind of thing. And so we got to 100K in like 6 months, and I don't know how to word it. We didn't go down when I had it, but I could feel that we were like,
you were like
edge.
1 week away from just
every month I was like, oh, dude, when is this thing gonna break? Like, when is this gonna catch up? It almost was like you looked behind you every second, just waiting for all the. I don't want to say that it was over promising or anything. It probably was. I don't remember, to be honest with you.
But when you're first starting, it's a little bit, right?
Yeah, and so I felt like everything was just, when is it going to catch up, right? So there's a lot of that. There's a lot of, hiring salespeople too fast. And then, how do you even compensate salespeople? I went through the Cole Gordon stuff and everything like you do when you start in the space. But you don't really understand how to compensate people effectively and how to run a business with correct economics when you start. And there were months where we made a lot of money, and then there were months where we were doing $110,000 a month and we made like almost nothing,
Yeah.
And so it was so messy. And I think one of the reasons I really wanted to get out of it genuinely was I felt kind of fraudulent. We had the 100K per month award and everything like that. But I felt like I had no idea what I was doing. And then there were people coming to me looking to learn from me and such. And at the time, I don't know, it felt icky, felt messy, felt like I was constantly looking behind. And the other side too is, I think the divorce rate for business partners is like over 90%. My business partner and I started to kind of see differently in how we wanted to go about things at the time. And there was just a lot. So ended up looking for we found one of the, I'm blanking, Roland Frazier guys who is like, doing seller finance deals and everything like that to sell the company. And so he gave us a certain amount down and then did a seller finance for the rest, which I got almost nothing from. I got like a couple payments on that, but when it came down to it, I think he tanked the business. Let me rephrase. Business was going to tank either way, with him or without him, because of the way it was set up.
You jumped off the Titanic.
I jumped off the Titanic, yeah. And so I feel like most people would position it as like, I sold a 7-figure agency. I genuinely feel like I just got lucky and getting out at the right time. And, I learned more about how to not run a business from that than how to run a business. So, well, I guess it's the same thing.
I guess you also learn how to sell a business.
I learned how to not sell a business.
Exactly, right. Because like if you did that with a business that was actually super valuable to you.
I would have. Oh my God, it'd be one of my biggest life regrets at this point.
Yeah, and that's kind of a hard part about selling a business in general is like someone else that's buying it is probably buying other businesses too, and like what priority is yours to them, whereas to you it's number one. And I see so many deals go down like this where they do seller finance and then the payments
stop
or get delayed a long time, and like
I think there are only offhand 3 agencies that I can think of in this space that I would say are like actual sellable businesses, yours being one of them. But so many people, I'm speaking at a agency event in 10 days, and one of the topics they wanted me to talk about was how to sell an agency or building an agency to sell. And I don't think, forgive me because I feel like I'm going to contradict what you've grown, but you are an anomaly. Most people should not create an agency to sell. I feel like the agency is a beginner business model for 99% of people just to learn how to run a business. And so I think it should be a cash flow model, which I didn't understand at the time, mostly because of, when you start to get into there's like the 2 agency worlds that I know of are the Joel Kaplan world and the Iman Ghadzi world, right? And so we talked about top line. The whole thing about the Iman world is that you don't talk about top line at all. You only talk about profit. When you talk about the Joel Kaplan world,
you only talk about top line.
You only talk about top line. And so
it's award based. That's why, right?
Exactly. And so I started getting into the world where I only cared about what my stripes showed, not my P&L. And I got my priorities all kind of tangled up, and it got super messy. And I think realistically, if I was to talk to, I don't know, I feel like most of your audience is more mature, so I won't talk about beginner stuff for the most part. But I feel like if I was a beginner, the one thing I would say is focus on just cash flow and profit when you start an agency. I think that a majority of the agency model is around learning how to run a business, not how to run a multi-million-dollar business that you could sell for a decent amount of cash like yours. I think you're probably in the top 0.1% of the agency world. Forgive me if I'm wrong.
I mean, you're probably right. But that doesn't mean that we don't sacrifice profits for
I'm not saying
growth.
that. Correct.
Well, which is what you're kind of making as a point. I'm just trying to clarify it. Like, I could take home a lot more money in the agency, but we would not grow the way that we're growing. Sometimes we have to operate at a break even for a couple months and sink all the cash back in to grow to get to where we're trying to get to.
The only problem is people see, because you're an idol. You were an idol to me for a long time. Not saying that you aren't anymore. But
come on, what did I do to you, man?
People will see what you're doing and then think it's the right thing to do at $20,000 per month. And so it's just I feel like the only thing, I don't know why I'm going down this rabbit hole. I didn't expect to go on this rabbit hole, but the beginner agency world, I think there's been a lot of people asking me how I look at that world, and I think the only thing I would really clarify from my mistakes is that needs to be a cash flow centered world. Investing in education for sure. I think the only thing you really should invest in at that point is education. And learning skill sets. But I feel like a lot of people dump way too much back into the business and then end up with this point of like, how do we get here? Where I feel like I'm on a hamster wheel at this point. I'm sure you see it, those hamster wheel agencies.
I mean, I'm on a hamster wheel some weeks too, dude.
Yeah,
I get it.
But at your point, it makes sense because you have enterprise value,
Fair enough.
And so if you don't have enterprise value, then I feel like there's no reason to be on a hamster wheel. Does it make sense?
No, it makes total sense. I mean, that's Iman's model, right? Like, I just had a call with him yesterday and we were talking about it, and he's like, in my opinion, the agency is the best model to go to, $50K, $100K a month, but it's the worst model to go to, $10 million a year. Like,
absolutely.
Like, you're gonna kill yourself.
We called it the friction point. There's like a glass ceiling in profit that most agencies hit, anywhere from, depending on niche and service and such, like $60,000 to $110,000, $120,000 a month in profit. One of the things I said on a talk the other day was that if you talk to agency owners who are doing 100 top line, they're so cocky. 9 out of 10. Like, you are if you haven't met Eddie in person, you're such a humble dude. You're fun to talk to. You're easy to get along with. But you've met a lot of 7-figure agency owners. They're so pretentious, so ego filled. It's not fun to talk to them. But you meet a $100,000 per month profit info product owner, and they're like, teach me. What do I not know? I'm broke.
Okay.
Right? Like, yeah. Like, I have friends who are making $85K take home, and they're like, I am sick of being a brokey. And it's just such a different model when you go from, I'm not trying to say info products is the right way to go. I'm just saying when you go from agency being a cash flow model to info product, which is a better cash flow model, I think that, you can take a lot more, but you chose cash flow model and enterprise value because you don't get enterprise value in most info product,
Yeah.
And so that's the thing that you're sitting on, which is why hamster wheel could be worth it for you when you're on it. You have a lot that you're sitting on. To make
I think that's really interesting what you said about like those people that make about 100K a month or so in the agency world. Like a lot of them, here's the thing, even like 60K a month, a lot of them are just so cocky about it, but it's because they've never been there. You know what I mean? And if you think about it, their surroundings their whole life, like if their parents made 60 grand their whole life, right?
That's true.
Making 60 grand a month is like
shattering,
right? So I'm the shit is kind of an easy way to react, especially when you're someone, I mean, you're pretty young, bro. How old are you?
How old are you?
Don't do that to me. I asked you first.
No. I think I'm older than you think I am.
I'm 30.
I turned 30 in 3 months.
Bro, I thought you were like 28. And this morning when I was at the gym with Amir, he was like, he's maybe he was talking about the past, but he made it sound like you were like 24 years old.
No, it was working with Iman, people just assume, Iman's young, Paul's got to be young.
Okay, yeah, because originally I thought, because I remember sitting next to you at Miami, and I remember in my head I was like, oh, he's really close to my age. So I was like, okay, maybe it was like 2-3 years apart.
No, I turned 30 in July, bro.
Okay, that makes sense. But if you're like 22, 23, and you're making 60, 100K a month,
yeah, absolutely.
It's very easy to be cocky, but it's funny because like they don't know who I am. And so I'll sit next to them in some of these rooms, and they'll be so cocky to me. And the way that I always I just shatter it all is like, they'll be like, oh yeah, I do like $1 million. And they'll be talking about like a year.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is that a month or week? Like, how much?
You're the only person in their life that's ever asked.
Yeah,
that's more than,
right. Yeah. They're like year. I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. Good job, man.
That's cute.
Keep it up. I don't say that because I used to say that, but I'm like, you know what? Like, I need to put this person up.
Okay, that's.
But
fair.
I also need to humble them at the same time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like when you just challenge, like, oh, is that a week, a month, like, and they're thinking a year. That's enough already. They're like, shit, like how much does this guy make? Like, I don't know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? So it's funny to see that. And the richer the person is, usually the quieter they are about that. And they don't really, like my richest friends, you wouldn't even know they're rich. They don't even own cars.
Yeah, I believe
hundreds of millions of dollars, no cars. Yeah. So it's pretty cool. So you exited that. Then what made you get into working with Joel?
So when I started with Joel,
because here's an important lesson. You went from owner to job.
Correct. Entre to intrapreneur.
Yep.
Which
I think a lot of people are scared to do and don't see the value in it. I think a lot of times it's really important.
Yeah. I think I can give in retrospect why I wanted to without understanding why I wanted to at the time. So I'll talk about why I wanted to at the time and then what I think I was trying to do in hindsight. I wanted to take a few months off. I feel like for 18 months I had just been like going, burning.
It's hard.
Like, yeah. And so I just, no vacations, no time off, anything. And so I told Joel, I reached out because we had a relationship at this point. I was like, hey, I just want to close for a little bit, just get into like some easy sales calls, et cetera, probably a few months and then start my own thing. At the time I thought I wanted to start SaaS. I think the other thing is every agency owner makes a little bit of cash and they're like, okay, I'm ready for software, which is the most complicated business model probably in the world, right? Yeah. And so that's where I thought it was.
With the least control.
Yeah. And so
you can't just like step in and change it tomorrow.
Nope. It's a yacht versus a small powerboat.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I thought that's what the plan was.
Can't even be a fucking cruise ship, bro. Yeah, maybe. Like that thing is hard to turn.
SaaS, I have no end. I was talking to Sam Ovens the other day and we were talking about info versus SaaS, and he was like, I do not want to be a SaaS owner. It's just one of those.
He is a SaaS owner, though.
He is a SaaS owner, but you could tell it's one of those like weights that he carries because he can and he should.
Yeah.
But he's
like 6-7 years into it now, right? How long has it been
4
around?
or 5, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so I was looking for something just to chill for a few months, and I got in. I was a closer for like a month, and Joel's, not to say anything bad about the company, but the operational side was just a little behind. And I have an operational mind. That's probably one of the things that I have going for me. Just gift of God, I can think that way. And so I got in, started to do some ops stuff, and then kind of grew with that for a little bit. And then I was there and went from working with Joel to being a sales manager for Iman. And I think
Wait, that was too casual.
Okay.
You're working for Joel? How long were you with Joel?
4 or 5 months.
Oh, okay. It wasn't that long.
No,
I thought you were with Joel for like a year.
No, it wasn't long at all. It was like a very short stint of closure, worked in ops, and then dipped
Any
out.
lessons there? Because Joel's doing some pretty good numbers, and Joel has great following, and he definitely knows how to get attention.
The biggest thing that I think I could say is a learning lesson if you're a business owner is that at the time, I don't know Joel's current company, but at the time, I don't know if you remember this, but every person in the company was some agency owner or had something on the side. They were like,
I'm aware. Yeah.
They were working in Joel's business, but they had other things going. And so what happened was you never felt like it was a unit of people driving toward the same mission and trying to grow that company. Everyone was there out of convenience and get a paycheck, right? Whereas when I worked with Iman, the thing about Iman's company is we built a culture where everyone at that company cared about creating an impact in the world. Everyone felt like we were driving toward the same thing. There was no one who did anything else. We were just driving toward changing the world. With Joel's company, it was a group of freelancers, agencies, people who had half mind in, half foot in, half foot out, et cetera. And so it felt very clock in, clock out. And I think realistically, when it comes down to it, the difference that I learned is how much culture can create impact in a company and overall grow a company. And so the lesson I learned would, if anything, just be culture and people development and pouring into people and having the right people and hiring and requirements, if you will, inside of your company. That's probably the one thing I would take from Joel's company. And so I went from Joel's to Iman. And in hindsight, what I was looking for is I think I grew in business relatively fast with the agency because I'd done a decent amount of little high-level things with government, car, and SaaS and stuff beforehand. And so I think you will always kind of meet a revenue that meets the maturity of who you are as an entrepreneur. And so my revenue met who I was. And then I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know how to grow. I felt kind of, so one of the things I listened to Hermosi the other day, and I love how he worded this, is you either feel anxious at how many things you can do, or you feel like lost and not knowing what the next step is. And I felt lost. I didn't know how to grow. And so I was looking to kind of tie myself to somebody who I thought I could learn from. And that's when I went to Iman. And that's why I was looking to be an entrepreneur because I knew I was going to be an entrepreneur for only a certain amount of time before I started my own thing again. And I wanted to learn from someone, I'm sure the same reason a lot of people come on with you, to learn from you. And so that's when I made the jump ship over there and spent 2 years there and did some amazing things there with him too. So.
Well, you started as a sales manager.
Correct.
I didn't know that.
Okay, for 2 months or 3 months, and then became the COO 2 or 3 months in. COO was the COO for about a year and then became a CEO for the last 9
Okay,
or
so
10
sales
months
manager, you manage the sales team, obviously.
Correct.
I assume you were paid off sales team collection.
Correct.
Then you went to COO.
Correct.
What are your responsibilities as COO?
In short, COO to CEO, my responsibilities didn't change. And what kind of happened was that Iman and I divided and conquered.
Okay.
It was very natural. It was a transition over a course of months. It wasn't like a deliberate conversation where we said, you do this, I do that. But Iman and I kind of knew what each other did best. And so we just split and conquered. I handled most of the operational, the development, the client success, the CS, sales, et cetera. And Iman really became someone who just could drive a content machine. And so if anything, I just took the weight off of him to be able to focus on that so that he could do what he does best.
Super important, because I've been trying to drive towards that myself in the business, but I always get back into the business itself and work on it. And I actually wrote a quote on my phone yesterday, like just thinking to myself, I was like, you're being too reactive in the business and you're not, which is therefore not letting you create as much as you used to, and that is where you operate best, is like creating. It's not even just content, just creating. Like, whether it's ad concepts, new products, going and acquiring a new business line that might help us, like that's where I operate best. And so,
would you say you're type A and you're pretty, you like things done in your own way?
Definitely, for sure. But like you don't just get to 200 employees doing it all your own way.
I know that, but I think. And maybe this is something that and I just need to remind you of it, but I think one of the things that takes people from $1 million a month to $10 million a month is not delegating tasks or even minor decisions. It's delegating those macro, like big decisions, And so it's almost rewiring what gets you to 100,000 a month isn't what gets you to $1 million a month, isn't what gets you to 10 million a month, and so on. And almost every step that I've seen so far is just rewiring what got you to the prior step, right? And so it's almost like this funny, can I cuss on this, like fucked up joke where it's...
Oh, we're cool. Past that on this podcast. Yeah.
Okay.
It's probably the most PC one so far.
Okay, sweet. It's like this fucked up joke where essentially you have to rewire every single thing that got you prior to. And so almost something I would challenge you on is, and I have no place to be challenging you, but
That's not true, bro.
No, but if you're getting reactive, it's probably because you're having trouble delegating that ability, or you just don't have the right person. Sorry to say this in front of a team, but you might not just have the right person.
No, it might be the case. Yeah, I mean, how can I ask someone on my team to take us to 10 million a month if they've never been there?
Yeah,
it's also that.
Well, I don't think that they take it. I think that you have someone in business who cleans up after you and then you create. Does it make sense? And so the people that I've seen do really well are the people who you have the creator, i.e. you, and then you have the person who's like the guy who just cleans up everything behind you and handles the mess. And as a creator, you almost can't put that mess into a box. Does it make sense?
No, 100%. So that's the best way to explain it, probably. The problem is like you leave too much of a mess, no one can clean it up.
Well, that's the dichotomy that you should almost have between that's CEO versus COO. One of the things I would almost argue is I should probably have never been a CEO because Iman and I kind of jangled with that role a little bit, and he always was to an extent the visionary. But if that's you, realistically, then the dichotomy I think between a CEO and a CEO should almost be like sales and marketing, where there's abrasion between the two. I feel like the CEO and the COO should almost always have a little bit of conflict. And
For sure, yeah, because the CEO wants to go, and the COO wants to go properly.
Yeah, exactly.
Big difference.
Yep.
The CEO is just like, oh, new idea, let's go do this. We can make a ton of money and help a lot of people. And the COO is like, bro, we didn't even fix this mess over here.
We got this and this and this.
Yeah, we need to calm down. And I always see it, honestly. Whenever I work with other companies, like, I'll talk to the CEO and they're like, my fucking CEO is so slow, like, can't even do this, blah, blah, blah. And I talk to the CEO and they're like, every fucking day they have a new company they want to start and, like, they don't understand it takes employees and money and time and we can't just build all this shit in a week. Like, it just doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? So it's funny just to see those dynamics. And I agree. I think they need friction because the CEO should always be pushing up and the COO in a way should always be like, hey, we need to do it kind of tight and properly. And that's where in our business we have a CFO too, Julian. And he's always pushing down. Like,
that's their job.
That's their job. On today's boardroom call, he's like, I don't even want to hear a request for pencils this month. He's like, we got taxes. Like, if you want pencils, like, put it on your own tab. Like, we ain't even buying pencils. I'm like, okay, hate to tell you this, but I'm about to drop, $5,000 on this thing over here that we have to do as a company. You know what I mean? So you always need that push and pull, I think, in a business in order to grow properly. Because I think a lot of people will recklessly grow because that's kind of the CEO standard. And then if you don't have the finances in place and the operations in place, like you said, you'll feel like it's going to catch up at some point, or financially you just read the numbers wrong. Dude, we have a client right now who every month on Hyros and on Stripe, on everything that's indicating that we have any reports of, makes $300,000-$400,000 a month. Info, okay? Profit. $300,000-$400,000 a month. Gets on a call yesterday. Our accountant did our books, and looks like last month we only made 30. I'm like, our numbers say you made $380K. Like, that's impossible. We've been using the same numbers for 7 months.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way that all 7 months you've been wrong. Like, you got to know in the bank if you're making an extra 3, 4. Like, it's only going one way. Like, that can't be right. And we went back and forth about it, and they're like, oh, our accountant just looked, and we're wrong about this. And, like, I was like, man, what a fucking disaster. Like, who can even be in business thinking, operating like that? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, at what point do you not realize a red flag when everyone's saying we made $400K profit and your bank doesn't change? Like, this is a fresh conversation, so I'm still skeptical. I'm like, they're fucking lying to us. There's no way. I'm like, just go at your bank
I don't know who
statement.
they are, but sometimes a lot of info product guys. Let me ask you this, without giving any info away: are they content creators? Like, are they a brand, or is it?
Now that I know them more, yes.
Okay.
Originally, I thought they were like really good operators of info.
See, a lot of guys who I was blessed, Iman's a smart dude, but a lot of guys that I meet that are content creators that put info product on the back, they're not business savvy.
Oh, 100%. And so I talked to them. I'm like, not these guys, but the content guys.
I wouldn't be surprised if they had no idea what their economics look like. I think that's really, really common. There's a lot of guys that I work with now who, when they come on, they can be doing, right around the similar numbers, and they struggle to pay, whether it's like 10 grand or 20, whatever it is, they struggle, and they have to talk to their accountant about how to phase it out. But they're profiting $300,000 a month, is what they say. So I think there's a lot of, the thing is, info product is the starter model for a lot of content guys and people with brand. And so there's just a lot of learning curve. It's like I wouldn't expect an agency owner at $10,000 or $20,000 a month to know what their economics look like. And I almost it's almost like steroids versions
Fair
of that,
enough,
you know,
yeah,
the
yeah.
economic.
It's like add a zero to it.
Exactly.
And it's the equivalent. Like
And that's
100K agency
yeah.
is almost like probably like a 700, 800K like info product
genuinely,
business.
you know?
Yeah.
And so they, they had, the things that they'll spend money on, half the time they just don't understand how it compounds, you know? And so I wouldn't be surprised if they weren't lying and if they were just ignorant.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. So let's go back to the conversation. You're COO, you went into CEO.
Mm-hmm.
What's that like, man? 2 years, one of the biggest names in the space, one of the most looked up to people. What are some things you learned, like that Iman and his brand and his team are just like, man, this is just such like a unique thing that they have that's just so powerful that I don't see elsewhere much. And like, what are other things that just from your experience you learned, whether good or bad? I'd love to have some takeaways, kind of like what that experience was like.
Number one, I just love saying this. I haven't met anyone in this space that I have more respect for more than Iman so far. I was telling you this prior to podcast, but we both have death before dishonor tattooed on our arms, and I think he lives up to that more than anyone I've met in the space. His word is his bond. He is genuinely one of the best souls I've met so far on this planet. And so I have nothing but love and admiration for him. Something that I think he does really well is a lot of people. Number one, I think Iman is probably a world-class PR guy, if you will. Like, he just understands PR and content. And so I think he understands how to frame things. But people think, I was watching something from Joel about, how Iman probably makes his life look busier than it is. And the one thing I learned genuinely is that if anything, people have no idea how much he does to do what he does. Like, the travel, the everything that you see about Iman is probably 1% of how much actually happens, and so it's one of those. I think most people with content, they'll book a private jet, for example, given to try to show that they can get on a private jet and stuff like that, where he probably will do 100 jet rides and show one of them, kind of thing. And so it's just it's truly what he's done is build a glimpse of his life on social media, where I feel like most people use social media to try to create a life. And so that's one of the things that I can truly say he does differently. He's a talented dude. I think I'm a Christian. I try to talk about this a lot on podcasts, if that's okay. And I think that, God created humanity in the image of God. Everyone has something that shows their image of God. And I think Iman's image, if you will, is just he has a brain that thinks in terms of content and does that really, really well. In terms of company, the one thing that we had that was different than any other company in the space, arguably one of the best in the world, was the culture. Every single person there knew our core values, embodied our core values, were proud of our core values, drove toward the mission of reform.
What were the core values?
System. Better every day, death before dishonor.
Wait, slow down, bro. Come
Sorry.
on. I gotta understand it.
Better every day.
Okay.
Which is every single day we strive to become 1% better personally and professionally.
We had one that was similar. Always be growing is what we used to have.
I like it. I think better every day. I didn't know this. So Iman and I coined better every day and death before dishonor together. Death before, but DBD was more him. Better every day, I think, was unconsciously in my brain because I'm a big Lululemon guy. I'm wearing Lulu pants right now. I think Lululemon is one of the best athletic brands in the world. And I don't know if you know this, but on the back of every shirt and most pants is better every day. And so I think I had seen it so many times that that's just how it was ingrained in my brain. Yeah. So anyway, we stole one, if you will, from Lulu. But better every day.
Here I was waiting for this insane Inception story, and you're like, just took it from Lululemon.
Yeah, not purposely. Just
dude, there's so many companies at this point. Any core value you have, someone else has it.
Agreed. Death before dishonor was something that, you know how core values work. They have to be things that are genuinely embodied by the leader of the company. So Iman focused on bettering himself every single day, and so did I. Death before dishonor is something that I think I showcased well, and Iman, of course, showcased it well. It's something that is definitely true to him. And so it's, are you willing to do the hard things, the impossible things when it's not convenient for you because it's the right thing? And so we really genuinely try to make a company out of that. Buoyancy was one that
Buoyancy is the third one?
Buoyancy, uplifting force.
3 total?
Yep, 3 total. I like 3 core values. I think any more than 3, you start to get a little foggy with how you hire toward them and focus on them. If you have 5 or 6 or 10 core values, it's really hard for you to make sure every single person, it's impossible to make sure every person embodies those core values, right?
Yeah, I would disagree. We have 7.
Yeah.
I would say everyone in our company embodies those 7, knows those 7. You could walk up to anyone in this office.
What are your 7?
Be bad, number 1.
Okay.
Play to win.
Okay.
Extreme
What's
ownership.
be bad?
Bold and disruptive.
Okay, got it.
We're a marketing company.
Cool.
So
yeah.
Be bad, bold and disruptive. play to win. Sorry, because there's 7, so I'm going to say them out of order. Play to win, extreme ownership. Nobody's bigger than the team.
Okay.
Best idea wins.
Break that one down.
So we don't care if you're an intern. I mean, dude, Victor was an intern a year ago, and he's creative director.
Or C-suite. Best idea.
Best idea wins.
Like
Doesn't matter. We have a campaign. Best idea wins.
So your core values are more around your company rather than the human beings?
No.
Because best idea wins is more around company.
Yeah, that one is, but all of them are.
I would call that an operational value, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you're not wrong around the best idea wins, but like these things apply to life too.
Okay.
Like in my own household and family, like
same thing.
I don't really care if I'm the man and I'm doing something around building in the house and my wife gives me a better idea, I'm applying that. I understand what you're saying. I
understand what you're saying too.
Basically my point that I'm trying to make is like we're like, what do we want? And we like went down the list and wrote like 20 things, 30 things, right? And we're like, okay, condense them. These 5 can be this one. These 4 can be. We just kept trying to condense. We're like, how do we get lower?
To where you couldn't condense it anymore.
We're like, we're like, what about getting rid of that one? We're like, fuck with that one, man. We all fucking love that one because it embodies this, and no other one kind of states that. And so, anyways, that's what I was just challenging on. I agree, 3's super easy to understand, but I do think if you guys were like, what else are we missing? You would think of like multiple things that you're missing. It's just like, is it worth making a core value, or is it just something that we want?
I think I have a different perception. So when I think of core values, I specifically, so I think that if you have the right mission, what's your company mission?
Make good brands go bad. We make good brands go bad. Very simple.
I think can I challenge you? Am I allowed to do that on this podcast?
Bro, yeah.
I think that sounds really good, but I think that you're going to have trouble bringing on, I know you have an amazing team, but I feel like
we have like a drawn out mission statement that's like 3 sentences, but like it's not the one we talk about.
The motto, if you, what's the drawn out one?
The drawn out one is essentially, I don't know if off the top of my head word for word, but paraphrase. It's basically like, we exist to help companies that deliver great products go from good to bad, meaning like from just a normal brand to like bold and disruptive, so that we can reach more people in the world with those products.
So that latter end was what I was looking for. How you impact the world or change the world, right? So I think if you have the right mission that changes the world, like Elon Musk is one of the best in the world to do it. Steve Jobs. Elon Musk is the example we use. He creates missions that top tier talented people want to be a part of. I want to help people go to Mars. I want to help get into renewable energy, et cetera. And so I think that when you
while we do this, can you guys look up like Apple's mission statement?
Yeah. You want to know my favorite mission statement? I think Apple is to put technology in the use of everyday person's hands or something like that.
They're all simple like this. Yeah. Even like McDonald's is like eat better or something.
Legos is my favorite. Lego, like what your kids play with, is to empower the builders of tomorrow through the play of today. Which I think cool. That's clean.
That's very well done, yeah.
And so anyway, it's these massive things that bring in so many people. And then I look at core values as, okay, I have all these people that want to work toward this mission. Now I have to pick who do I bring into my military. And so what values do I now look for every single time, and whether, gauging whether to bring someone on or not. And so I look at, do they exemplify these, you can 5, 7, 10, whatever, but the more it is, the harder it is to scope for those or scan for those when you're hiring people.
Yeah.
And so if it was just 3, what we found is that it's so easy to go through 1,000 people and find what, how many follow these 3 embodiments, or like what, even just asking like, hey, what is better every day to mean to you, or how do you better yourself every single day? And just seeing who answers that in a way that aligns with the company. That's why I look at 3, but I looked at it from a perspective of, it's not like I want you to come in and start embodying these. I want to know these are things you embody before you even get here. Yeah. Does it make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
I think it's a little different than how a lot of people look at them.
I get it. What'd you get?
Apple's mission statement is to bring best user experience to customers through innovative hardware, software, and services.
Oh, that was too long. That wasn't the one I was thinking of. We looked, there were like 200 companies' mission statements. We're like, how do we like... Because it sounds easy, bro, but then you sit down.
No,
like,
bro, it's
you're like, fuck, we're 4 hours in here. We can't figure this out. It's a sentence.
It's one of Amir and I were talking about this earlier. Every company in the agency world is like, I want to help 10,000 real estate agents do this. And I want to help 10,000 people do this. I don't know where that started from, but I think
I'm like, what happens when you hit 10,000?
Exactly. Bro? Like, how small of a goal can you set for yourself? You know, I think that it's one of those things that if you're listening to this and you're less than, a few $1 million a year, I don't think a mission statement matters at all. Right. But when you start to grow like a team of people in a company, I think that having a mission that you all drive toward, that is not the thing that you saw is none of them are reachable, right? They're all indefinite goals that can never actually be fully met, but they're still specific enough and tangible enough for people to feel like they can get closer and make an impact in the world.
Yeah.
And I think that is so, like example given, when I use this, I was thinking, I made a video on culture the other day and how you can model company culture after Christianity, because I think Christianity is the best example of company culture that you could ever get into.
I think religion in general.
Yes. Okay. Not to scope it down. I'm a Christian.
Again,
so
I'm Christian
use it
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just giving you a point. Like, honestly, like my Muslim friends probably embody their core values more than my Christian friends, significantly, honestly.
I agree, and I think it's because Islam is a different religion, how it enforces values versus Christianity. Does it make sense? That's a whole different conversation we could go down.
I agree with you. It's like what you tolerate is what you like what you encourage in a way. So
yeah, and it's almost like follow rules versus follow me so that you want to embody these rules. Does it make sense?
Yeah, I would challenge you on that. We're not going to get into the religion thing because
okay.
like I just don't see the purpose of that. I'm letting you know, in my opinion, I think religion in general is a very good embodiment of like what core values should be and like mission statements and like getting everyone to move in one direction.
So,
and they did it without the internet, bro.
Yeah, I know, bro.
Which is fucking crazy. Papers,
Papers,
pens,
word of mouth,
and
the whole
reading out
thing.
loud,
Yep.
bro. Like it's insane.
You are correct. Islam, Judaism, Christianity. You can learn a lot about how to structure a company, how to live life, of course, through it. But how to structure a company is something I feel like a lot of people don't get value from that they could. But I was talking about, if I was creating let's say a chiropractic info product, I have minor scoliosis, and I don't know if you know this, but you can pretty much eradicate scoliosis if you're not 18. Anything under 18, your spine is still malleable enough to get rid of it. But it's not very well known because if you don't do it, then you'll go on pain meds because you'll have back issues, and then pharma makes money. And so it's kind of squatted is not a known fact. And so I think that if I was making a chiropractic info product, I would create a mission statement around trying to eradicate scoliosis. It's a goal that will probably never be met, but and one thing that I think most people don't get into, I've never heard this term. I'm actually really proud of this. I've never heard this term thrown around or played with. But I think that if I ever wrote a book, it'd probably be on this. It's missional beliefs. And so I think that, let me use, I'm not trying to get back into Christianity.
No,
but
it's
just
all
an
good.
example.
It's all good. Yeah, I was just stopping myself.
Well, the belief of Christianity is that Christ died for our sins. The statement is to grow the kingdom of Christ. So the thing we're missioning toward is to grow the kingdom of Christ. But the thing we all believe that makes us want to do that is that Christ died for our sins. If you look at a chiropractic agency or info product that is trying to eradicate scoliosis, it could be the missional belief that scoliosis is curable, or let's even go wider and say you're trying to get holistic medicine info product, right? It could be the missional belief that everything can be cured naturally and organically through the body or through elements that you can find in nature. But the belief is that we don't do that because pharmaceutical companies need to make money, and so they don't show that. So the statement is
which is a true belief in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Sure. So the statement would be from that belief that we want to create a world where humans find, this is off the cuff, where humans find natural remedies before they look at pharmaceutical remedies while still appreciating modern day medicine or something, right? Yeah. And so I think most people don't think about the belief or the problem, the belief that they all have, the problem that they're trying to solve, and then create a statement. But I think when you start to get to a multi-million dollar per year, per month company, that's like one of the biggest things you can do in order to find the right talent and like have an actual flow of people that want to work with you. And so I think that's one thing that Iman and I like to take a little credit for that one. I think that's one thing that we did really, really well at that company. Nice.
So I know you can't talk about numbers and things like that in the company, but I'm kind of curious, like what can you tell me about the company itself? Like some cool ass shit on the info product side that you guys were doing that no one else was doing.
That's a general question. Can you give me a little more?
Yeah, I just want to. I don't want to ask too specific because you're gonna tell me no. So I'm kind of trying to leave it like open enough where you can tell me yes, if that makes sense, to something that you can
go
tell
a little
me
more
yes
specific for me, maybe.
Yeah, like let's talk like acquisition strategies. Like, what were you guys doing outside of like certain methods of acquiring clients that you guys were doing that maybe other people weren't doing? Like, for example, obviously it's public knowledge. Iman was doing launches last year, for example, right? Like Iman did a bunch of launches. I don't know how successful they all were, but like, I can tell some of them were pretty successful. Some maybe were less just based on viewership and things like that. that was a pretty cool model that you guys were doing. You know, I think you're doing like maybe 4 to 6 a year or so from what I saw. These were all public on YouTube usually, and then he's taking them down. So that's public information. Like everyone saw that. I'm wondering anything else similar to that a business of that size with that much attention and that much.
I think it's all simple. You know, you've seen this already, but it's the simple stuff and, you know, fancy fails, simple skills. And so it just, professional baseball players just do the basics and the fundamentals really well. And so I'll tell you what I don't want to talk about that business, but what I work on, like hint, if you will, what if with all their info products is creating evergreen stuff that allows them to scale sales teams really well. And it always starts out by just having a ton of free assets. And so one of my priorities when I work with companies now is, do you have like amazing, and I'm not talking like take a course that you have and put it on YouTube for free or whatever, be like, do you have amazing things that you've created, whether it's PDFs or videos or, you know, just any material that people can actually learn from and take value from that you can just give out for free, right? With no expectation of response right away. And so I think the guys who do exceedingly well in this space, talk about Tony Robbins, Grant Cardone, Dave Ramsey, Hormozi, if Hormozi brought something out, I would say that the latter is almost tons of free stuff, followed by almost always some $7 to $10 book, which is definitely something I would, if you're in an info product space doing at least, you know, a couple $100,000 a month, you could still even look at this. But I think a book is like one of the main, like Dan Martell, Jim Launch with Hormozi, Dave Ramsey has a lot, Grant Cardone has all those books.
Do you know how much revenue Dave Ramsey does?
300 mil a year, right?
Isn't that fucking crazy, bro?
Bro, he's the info product that's not an info product.
What the fuck, bro? Someone who works for him told me that, and I like.
He bought his, his office
just,
is cash.
Cash.
Yep. Massive office.
Bro, like office.
Yeah. And he's the only
it's like
info
a fucking
product.
HQ of an insurance company type shit.
Bro, Tony Robbins gets shit. Grant Cardone gets shit. Everyone gets shit. Dave Ramsey, only people he gets shit from is people in our space, genuinely. But like the world loves Dave Ramsey.
Yeah.
So I think that
I think entrepreneurs kind of shit on Ramsey a bit because like he's so anti-debt and like debt is so powerful and
but
that's
the thing
why
is you can't argue it with like you can't argue debt is risk. You know what I mean? And you can't argue save money and like, you know, invest wisely. So all his fundamentals are so inarguable. It's almost like what Hormozi does now. So I know a lot of guys who are big in the space who contradict a lot of Hormozi's beliefs, or at least don't like Hormozi's beliefs of give away value for free, do this, right? Yeah. And so like if you look at how Hormozi, the main belief that a lot of them share, and this is, you know, these are guys that have been around the space for 10 plus years. If you look at how Hormozi grew, he didn't give away free stuff. He didn't, you know, create a product that was quality, so high in quality that it got referrals and everything he preaches. He just got really good at creating sales machines. And he created a book, Gym Launch, that probably created, I'm guessing, dozens of millions of dollars in revenue. And the thing about what he talks about now that makes him bulletproof is you can't refute what he talks about. Give away stuff for free, make great product quality and such. And I know he looks up to Dave Ramsey in a lot of ways, and I would say that he's probably getting that irrefutable principle status from Dave. And I think that's one of the things it's kind of making me like right now mentally is to like, if you want to stay around for a long time, you have to have those irrefutable principles that you stand on, you know, which is why all these like most of the info product guys that are making these insane claims and such, you know, they go up and they go down. You never hear of them. But the guys that stay around for a long time are just talking about very principled kind of things. But anyway, so I would say free thing to book, and then from book to some kind of low ticket program, or even if not, just, you know, that's when you get on the sales calls for the 50K. That's what I've seen get people to multi-million dollars per month. And it's super simple. It just comes down to how good is your free content. Most, you know, I'd say that free content from Grant Cardone is probably better than most people's paid content for $1,500, $2,000. Yeah. You know? And so it's how much time are you willing to put into that? One of the things I talk about a lot now is I've written a lot of free content over the last few months. I don't expect to see anything from it for like a year or two, but I'm trying to make free stuff that people think I could have paid thousands of dollars for this. And I know you do 100%. And I'd say that's, it goes along with that Hormozi kind of style belief. The principle though is on the back end, you are creating a sales cycle for it.
Yeah. And so people opt into the stuff. What happens after? Are you sending them to like a training that sells them something? Are you having a sales team reach out to these people usually? Like what
all
is
evergreen
the
sales, just SDRs and MDRs.
So I opt in for a book. I'm getting called.
Yeah, getting called, getting texts, getting WhatsApp messages, getting Instagram messages. Instagram's a huge, especially if you're.
Doesn't that come off as desperate?
You think so?
No, I'm challenging you because like.
I think on the
you consumer side, if I apply for something and I get it for free, a lot of times if they're just like.
Well, it depends on the frame, right? If I'm saying like, hey Eddie, let's say I'm calling from Dave Ramsey's office. Hey, just wanted to I saw you downloaded X thing on how to save and invest.
How to
in
never
S&P.
use credit.
How to never use credit. And I just wanted to make sure you got everything okay, bro. You know, we had a lot of issues with tech and just, you know, some of our automations went down. Did you actually get that or do I need to resend it your way?
No, I got it, bro. Thanks.
Oh, cool, bro. Just, I mean, while I have you, man, we were trying to build a version 2 out of that. So what did you like most? If you've gone through it already, what do you like most?
I haven't even had the chance to get through it, bro.
I'm not going to be an SDR right now. But my point is, I don't think it comes across as desperate if you frame it. Now, if I'm like, hey, Eddie, I saw you got that. Do you want to get on a $10,000 sales call right now? And then, of course, it's going to
No, I get it. Yeah.
And so
I guess in my world, I just know what's happening the whole time. So I'm always like,
but we're not selling to people like, you know, you or me.
Yeah, I agree. That's the difference, right? Yeah. It's like I see it. I'm like, let me see what they're doing here. You know what I mean? But I think in today's world, I think people are more skeptical than they were 5 years ago.
I think sales resistance has gone up with the thing I've been saying a lot is I think sales resistance for YouTube is skyrocketing as of late, right? And so 5 years ago, you would land on a funnel from ClickFunnels, and no one knew what a ClickFunnels funnel looked like or what it was. Yeah. And so it worked really, really well. Now you have to have like really well-designed pages that don't look like funnels and everything for you.
Where did Iman build his pages on?
Webflow.
Yep. That's where we build all our stuff too.
I'm sure. Yeah, I've seen.
It just looks so much better than.
It looks clean, bro. When you see a GHL or ClickFunnels funnel, you almost always just get off it because you're like, I know exactly what this is. Yeah. But a Webflow thing looks like a website, and so it just. And again, eventually that won't work either as well, right? I have a feeling maybe even in 5 years the ClickFunnels stuff works again because it's almost cyclical.
Oh, 100%, dude. I was going to say the same thing.
Same thing with paid ads and organic. Right now, everyone's trying to become a short form guy and edit and an organic guy. Everyone's trying to be the next Iman. And so I have a feeling, I'm not running paid ads right now, but you are. I feel like paid ads are probably slapping a lot more than they used to or did over the last 2 or 3 years.
I mean, they're definitely slapping more than they did like a year and a half ago for sure.
And so I have a feeling that'll continue, and then people are going to be like, okay, organic's not, right now I'm hearing it's not brand that you want to be in organic, it's direct marketing again that you want to get into. And so people are going to start doing direct marketing and then paid ads again, and then organic's going to be the thing. And so it's just that cycle of like, you know, whatever works, everyone jumps to, and then the other thing works, and then it's just back and forth. And so it's the same thing with Facebook outbound messaging. And Facebook outbound messaging died down so I had my agency, did kind of well with it, with the outbound. And then ads was the thing. And so I went to ads. Everyone went to ads. Ads got super saturated. If I had just stayed with Facebook messaging, I probably would have slapped it 10 times better, right? And so the whole goal, my buddy taught me this one saying, the whole thing that I kind of try to pay attention to now is just better is not better, but different is better. And so I love that saying. And so my whole approach, right now everyone's creating school communities. I don't know if you saw, but I have a Slack journal instead. And I just try to.
Actually, Joel talked it up. He was like,
oh, yeah?
Genius, you think I should do something similar? Like, I don't know, Joel.
I want to do things that are different than what everyone else in the industry is doing, because then I just want to play the same game. I don't want to be a voice that shouts in the crowd of 1,000 people, you know? And so, to be straight with you, I'm forgetting where this tangent started.
Oh, you were talking about going to like low ticket communities. That's what everyone's doing nowadays.
Right. So anyway, the whole game is just be different. You know, if you're trying to be the next YouTube guy, by all means, then find a different way to, you know, everyone right now on cameras is doing, every YouTube video you see is the B side, the B frame camera, which Iman kind of coined, and then you have the A cam and stuff. And so everyone's just doing the exact same thing. The amount of YouTubers you see that have the exact same Iman Ghadzi background setup, I'm sure you've seen it. It's I don't know. That's the main thing that I'll see from Iman is that Iman is an innovator. He is not a replicator, you know? And so same with you. You're an innovator. You create. And so I think realistically, when it comes down to it, if you want to replicate, that's a great way to start, but it's not a great way to scale to multi-million. And so that's probably one of the other things that you only meet a handful of innovators probably in every generation at any time. So it's one of those things of, I think I'm talking to one right now. And so I don't know, there's a place probably for replicators in the world, you know?
Yeah. So a question for you. Now I know what you're doing kind of full time is consulting. Is that the best way to put it with info product agencies?
Portfolio stuff. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I know you work with companies who are already doing, 6 figures, 7 figures a month in the info product space. you help them with the operations, etc. If we could just do like top 3 things that you see that most people have messed up, or even just 3 things that people need to be doing that they're not, I guess, to better phrase it, in the info product space, what would they be?
Top is sales team. Even what Cole calls the big 3, just I can't tell you how many guys I work with that do $800,000, $900,000 a month that don't have daily call reviews or trainings for their sales team. They don't know how to
team-wide training, right? They put
yeah.
one call and they review it live in front of everyone.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right. And even a sales manager should be doing a daily call review for every single person on the team behind the scenes. Right. And so just overall sales management, I don't think that there's a single info product I've worked with yet, sub $1.5 million a month, that has properly understood how to compensate a sales team, manage a sales team, understand the KPIs of a sales team, even flow to sales. You know, a lot of guys will just say, hey, you're a salesperson. How many calls do you want? You want 20 in a day? I'll give you 20 in a day, which doesn't make any sense.
No sense.
Right? And so I think,
unless you have like a 50% show rate, then it makes sense.
Yeah. But then I think you have a root problem.
Then you have a problem. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's number 1 is just sales team management and understanding how a sales machine works. Number 2 is most guys in the space don't have anything to get people into their ecosystem, like I was talking about, whether it's free. The guys that have no following, I'm talking a handful of thousands of followers, but can run some really profitable ads, are all the guys who have some free HVC, high value content. So whether it's PDFs, et cetera, you know, you can take a 60-page doc, put it on Twitter, say, you know, retweet this if you want this, and that it's almost always going to go viral, right? You can run ads to it in HVC, you're going to get really, really good opt-ins. And so the other thing is, if you have a following, a lot of guys will just take following to, now the whole thing now is YouTube VSL, and then just expect, you know, just calls or purchases. I think realistically, the second thing that I would say is just get that free bank of assets that I was talking about. And then the third thing, more than anything, is creating an actual company with what we talked about: mission statement, core values, understanding who you are, how you want to impact the world, how you want to attract talent, and then hiring process with that. There's so many guys that I was actually on a podcast with Ryan Pineda's CEO the other day, and we were talking about his hiring process and how he had a new person in operations start taking the one-on-one interviews for a little bit and got him out of it right away. But so many people just delegate hiring too fast because they don't know what they're looking for in the hires, because they don't know what the values that they're looking for are, and they don't know how to screen properly, and so they just get it off their plate, and then before they know it, they have a team of, how the fuck did you end up here kind of people. Right? And so there's, I don't know,
was that Javi?
Yeah, Javi's great, bro. Love Javi.
I love all of them, dude. They're all great.
But I think if anything, it just goes back to the, you know, add a zero to the agency world. So many info products. It just, the vehicle can create such cash that you get away thinking you know what you're talking about, but you have no idea. And you just, you know, it's just the amount of leverage you can create in an info product is so high that main things I would say is sales, HVC, and probably company culture. Operations wise, you don't see too many companies struggle because they have, I'm working with 2 guys right now that do $1.5 million a month, and they're running a CRM on Airtable. I don't know what you use.
Crazy.
Bonkers, bro. Right? One of them is doing $600 a month, a third one, and they're on G Sheets for a CRM. And so I want to argue that operations is a massive piece of like growing. I can't necessarily. I would argue that the Airtable companies could probably do way more if they actually had a proper CRM and proper info and stuff. They disagree with me, and it's a constant contention. But I can't necessarily argue that operations is something that keeps people from growing that we look at right away, because I've seen people crush it with terrible ops at this point.
Yeah,
you know, so
it's mainly sales.
Yeah. How about you? What are when you look? You work with a lot of info products. What are the first 3 things you look at?
Yeah, I think a lot of them need like multiple channels of sales. And they're really dependent on one. So whether that's, I only sell through my organic YouTube to a sales team, or I only sell on a webinar, checkout, no sales team, vice versa, right?
When do you look to get them on multiple? Because I feel like you can max out one and get to a pretty high value on just one.
Yeah, but it's like it's all hedging risk, right? So like,
that's fair.
Anything that doesn't require a sales team is so scalable because I don't have to depend on how they're showing up today. If I know like my webinar closes between 7 and 10% of people, and 30% of people are going to show up to it, as long as those numbers check out, I'm going to be very good, right? But then I can take the sales team and I can take all the people that attended the webinar, didn't buy, push them to a sales call, have them clean up. I can also sell them a high ticket on the back end for much more directly to a sales team. And so sales team gives me malleability of being able to do a bunch of stuff. And like,
you leverage systems, not people, like software.
Exactly. Because dude, here's my take. Like, I think you need both. Like, if I guarantee if someone's selling to a sales team right now, that I could come in, sell a bunch of stuff digitally with no sales team directly to checkout, not pay anyone commission, and double the company, let's say, and vice versa.
To find a middle ground, I think that the companies that scale the most, if you look at barometer and like you have to, let's say someone only buys when they get to 100%. The companies that scale the furthest get people to close to 100 without sales reps, whether it, through the VSLs, post-booking VSLs, webinars, example given, free assets, et cetera. People are the companies I work with that rake it, a lot of the closers are, they'll confirm a call and the people are like, actually, I just want to pay. I just didn't know how to pay kind of thing, or I have one question and then I'm good to go. And so I totally agree. It's the reason that software has such enterprise value and sales is because, I forget who told me this, but software, you're scaling systems, not people. In info product, you're scaling people, not systems for the most part, or how a lot of people do it. But I totally agree with you. That is a lateral hedging of lead flow is a...
Yeah, so that's number one for me. Number two, I think most info product businesses, I think the business owners try to make it passive too quickly. And so therefore I want to spend less time coaching. I'm like, bro, you're doing one coaching call a week and it's to a group. If we sell 1,000 or if we sell 10, it's the same work. Like, how can you get less than one? Like, it just, can we do like one call every 2 weeks? I'm like, bro, like, how are you going to, in a market where everyone's competing to deliver more value, deliver less value? So I think as stupid as it sounds, that's the second one. Like, even today I got off a call with someone. I just want to spend like less time on the business. I'm like, okay, what if the business made you like 3 times as much money? How many hours could you spend? I could probably spend 20 more hours a week. I'm like, okay, so it's actually not an hour problem. It's a money problem. So like, and some people, bro, I have clients that are so rich, like, doesn't matter. $30 million a year in their info business. They don't even care. They're not showing up for more than an hour.
Yeah. We saw that in Dubai,
Oh yeah. 100%.
I think acquisition.com stopped taking info products because of pretty much the profile of what most IP owners are like, and so it's the downside of working in the industry and working with guys like that. Sometimes it's frustrating to try to break through and work with the mindset that a lot of them have. But that's two. What's the third?
Back end, which you hate. Or I guess you hate it in your...
Back end is in...
Back end of a business, not as in a girl's butt.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Clarifying.
I feel like back end...
I thought there was just some confusion there, right?
Back end and operations are such like vague words I always ask.
Okay, yeah. So Ascension products on the back end. So
okay, got it.
Yeah, just like more expensive.
I don't hate back end.
Huh?
I don't hate back end. I just think it only makes sense if you have optimized front end. If you have,
of course, bro. But if you're doing $400,000 or $500K a month, you have an optimized front end. Like,
yeah, but what if? If you have a massive audience that you could do $4 or $5 million a month and you're only doing $400,000 or $500K and you kind of know you can.
But why can't you solve both? Like, I don't understand why it's one or the other.
Because I feel like humans are only good at solving one problem at a time.
Yeah, not if you have a team, bro. Like,
that's fair.
Like, I'm not solving the same problem right now that my sales team is. You know what I mean? They're also not solving the same problem my finance team is or my hiring team is. Or
I hear you.
So like, I that's why I disagree. Because here's how I look at it. Let me give you an example. So we run a webinar, right? We spend $100,000, we make $200,000, 2x return.
I know you put a back end on it.
I put a back end,
10% conversion.
And let's just say out of $200,000, it's a $2,000 product, so 100 people are buying it.
Mm-hmm. I'll give you 25 ascensions.
No, I was gonna go less, bro.
All right,
15 ascensions.
Cool.
But it's a $5,000 product.
Yep.
15 times
grand,
5.
Now you're 260.
Yeah. Now I'm up $75,000. So now I have an extra $75,000 of profit, no ad spend, on week 1, let's call it, on only 15% ascension. I now have $275K for my same 100,000.
I get it. I don't disagree with you.
And so now I'm like, I'm getting a 3x. Let me spend more money.
It just depends. Sometimes on the inflow, you have to depend, like, can I get more than 200? For the same amount of energy put in to focus on creating a back end. Because to me, every offer you have is almost like a different company, right? And so having a back end offer that has great client success,
I agree with you.
It's so much.
For an extra, we're not even talking crazy. We're talking $75K every week extra. That's a lot, bro. That's 300 grand a month.
I don't disagree
Fuck,
with
bro.
you.
I'll throw 50 grand of payroll at it. I'm sure it'll solve itself.
But that's
50 for a product. It's an info product. Like, it's filmed once. It's client success and coaching.
But the thing is, back end is almost
managing.
always time. It's not film on the back end. You know, back end ascension, you're always getting into time, and so that's also what you
Like
get
coaching time or something.
coaching time. That's the only way you can really
Client
have ascension
success
stuff.
time. Things like that.
And a lot of times it's like
It's more attention.
It's more, and it's not. Well, it's even just like the owner of the company almost has to have some more, like a decent amount more face time in the back end of the company, and so it comes down to, okay, let's make 300 grand more a month, but I have to do X amount more hours a month versus
2 hours a week. I mean, it all depends who you are, right? But
yeah,
for me,
that's fair.
if you
I
give me
would do it
300
in a
grand
heartbeat.
month,
Yeah, I don't disagree with you in
dude,
the
I'm
slightest.
getting on for 2 hours. What do you want me to do?
Yeah.
2 hours a week. I can dance for 2 hours. I don't care. I got 2 hours. For
I don't disagree with you. I think the game is just for no FaceTime. Can I get another 100 grand a month on the front end? You know?
Oh, I agree.
So.
Which here's the problem. Like, it's all relative. It's like, okay, let's say on the front end, I have to go reduce our cost per lead, which means I have to go make more content. That's FaceTime. Just because it's not sitting on a Zoom call with students. I just spent 6 hours filming ads today. Like, that's 6 hours of time. I could have done technically 6 1-hour coaching calls. It's all relative in a way, right?
Yeah, you're not
It's
wrong.
time spent on the business. If we classify it like that, I agree. Front end can be scaled, and don't get me wrong. Like, back end is all useless without a front end. You know what I mean? It is how it is. There's no one to come in. There's no one to upsell, so it's all useless. But if I was to tell you the 3 things that I see that most info products don't do, that I feel like are the biggest opportunities, those are the 3 that I have.
I can agree to them. And then back end wise, you'll be happy to know that I do work with companies on the back end as well.
And just for context for everyone here, like, I was at an Iman mastermind with Paul, very high level stuff. Paul was the CEO, and Iman said, we don't do any back end. And I said, I think that's silly. And
I defended my point at the time, and I still
and so
am.
did Iman. You both defended kind of the same point. And I was like, well, I think you guys can make an extra $30 million a year from a back end. It's not worth the headache, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And
It was a good conversation. It was fun.
It was good. It was good.
And I'm sure we're going to continue
this
it
is
later
why
tonight
there's
at
this
dinner,
joke, just
you
so
know?
everyone knows why I think
But
Paul hates back ends.
The other thing is I feel like a lot of guys that do have back ends structure it wrong too. I don't know about you, but I see so many people try to structure. Let's even we'll use Joel as an example. Joel's continuation program was he had continuation and he had ascension, so it's not a good example. A lot of guys will try to use back end that can hit a majority of the people that purchase the product. I personally like back ends that only collect on 20 or 30% of the people that
which
can
is a
actually
great
get
number
in front of.
still.
Say again?
Great number.
Yeah,
still.
but then you can charge way more for it, right?
Yeah,
So
and it's only, I mean, even if 20% buy, that's a lot of people.
yeah, and so anyway, I'm
If it's
all for back end.
5x the product price of the front end,
Yep.
then it's 100% of the revenue on the back end.
I'm all for. I like 10x ladders too. I like $300 to $3,000 to $30,000 and such like that. I think a 10x ladder works really, really well.
300 to 3,000 to 30. That's interesting.
Yeah. I like 10x ladders, and I like when each offer is focused on making 10x the offer amount. And so for $300, this is how for $300, learn how to make $3,000 as a social media influencer. And then when you get to $3,000, learn how to turn your social media brand into an info product, teaching other people how to do it. And then at $30,000, learn how to make a mastermind or whatever, be it that makes you 300 grand. Right? And so I think it's clean. I think it works really well for the people I've seen run that.
It's definitely an easy framework to follow.
Exactly. It's simple.
Don't need to think too much about the pricing. I love that, dude. This is pretty cool. And for everyone listening, I know we're talking about info products, but like these principles apply to all businesses. Like even when I work with lawyers or just local businesses in general, or even e-com businesses, like it's all about like how little can we pay to acquire someone and how much money can we make from that same person so that we can afford to pay more to acquire that person. I have friends in the e-com space who literally lose money on the first transaction because they know this person's going to buy 3.5 times on average from me in the next 6 months, and I'm going to make money on those 2.5 purchases instead of the one. And it's just a really important thing in business. So if you are listening and you have a business of some sort, you know, sometimes the opportunity isn't in getting more customers. It's how can I make more from the same customers that I have, whether it's selling a different product to them, whether it's increasing the price of your product, whether it's finding other needs that they have that you can fill that can also directly correlate to more money, because it's way easier to sell more to someone who's already bought from you than it is to go find a new customer.
Agreed.
I think it's very important advice.
Yep.
So what's next with you, man?
I'll just tailor it into what you said. Now I have a portfolio company, right? And so my front end is consulting with info products. My back end, which is, the second and third products, if you will, is sister agencies that I kind of spun up that have amazing, like talented people, Webflow design for funnels and such, or sites, and then email agency and everything that works with info products so that they can start scaling. So I know you're doing email marketing for some big info products. It amazes me how many info products have massive lists and they don't do anything with it.
Literally, or they're just doing it completely wrong.
Yeah, it's like
it's a disaster.
That's probably, if we hadn't add a fourth, that's almost always the fourth thing. Like, what do you do with your list? And so we have a company that does that, and then we have a company that, if you're doing 200,000 a month, but you have, which is a small info, and you have a GHL landing page, like how can we kind of optimize that so you can get some better conversions and such. And so we have a Webflow agency that creates some, really, like, the guy's done some of the people in Tate's sphere for funnel designs and such. And so my whole thing is I'm just getting really deep in the info world. The offer that I'm really excited about that we are just spinning up, which I think we're going to slap really well with, is kind of going in that sales team approach. I think if I can be boastful on one thing, I think I've become really good at growing and leading sales teams, and same with my CRO. And so what we learned is if we're better at that than most people. It's a guy named Justin Tempest. You wouldn't know Justin, but he's brilliant, phenomenal guy. Justin, if you ever watch this, I have so much respect for you. That's
not what he says behind the scenes, Justin.
Fuck you. That is the thing that we gotten really good at. And we got really tired of just talking about it, like do this. And so we kind of thought, why not just do it? And so our offer right now, we took 2 people on. We had a lot of people, but we're only taking a handful at a time. This is like truly where fulfillment matters. Is I will go to you. I would even do this with you. For example given, I would say, Eddie, I think you probably have a long list of people and phone numbers that you don't work with a sales team effectively. I'm sure you even know you're not very effective with it. So what I'll do is I'll work your old leads for you, and I'll just take, when I say old leads, they can be, we'll find a timeline that makes sense.
Yeah,
it could be a month, 2 months, whatever it is. I'll take the ones you don't really work with, that your team is saying fuck off to, and whatever I close, I will pay the salesperson, the setter, the closer, the sales manager, et cetera. I get 50 cents of every dollar, a dollar you would never have made in the first place. And I think that's going to do really well. I ran that with one portfolio company in the past this is 2 or 3 years ago, and we were doing a couple $1 million a month on that sales structure. And so I think that's the next thing we're going to do. And so let's say we run this podcast back in a year, that's the offer that I think I want to be known for in a year specifically.
Very exciting. I can tell from the beginning of the conversation, just from our talks before, that definitely sales is
thank you
your main lane, right? And if you had to pick one thing that you could throw yourself into, it seems like that would be it. So very excited for you. 2 questions. Number 1, where do people go to connect with you? And number 2, I'm going to tell you the second one now so you can think about it. We always end these episodes with one piece of, let's call it like fortune cookie advice, one thing that you would give, your younger 22-year-old self, if you're 30 now, I guess, to make it easy. Some sort of life advice, something that they can take away, something that would stick in their head to help them make better decisions, live a better life, whatever it is. What would be that piece of advice that you'd pass down?
Cool. At Paul Daley on Instagram, easiest way to connect. Life advice would either be one of 2 things. Can I give 2 different options?
Can you give 2, guys? I'm going to leave it up to the producers here.
Yeah.
Producers, give a thumbs up.
Number 1, all work is profitable. It's in Proverbs. There are so many times in my young 20s and late teens that I was working at something and I thought I was stagnant. I didn't think I was growing, and I was building skill sets or traits or character. I was developing as a character in ways that I couldn't recognize at the time that allowed me to do the things that I can do now, right? And so number 1, all work is profitable, even if it doesn't feel like it. Number 2 goes a little in line with that, which is I never turned down opportunity. When I first started, I was never above anything. I was actually thinking about this morning on the flight here, dude. My first sales job ever was Sunglass Hut. And my first job before that was a movie theater and then car sales and such. And I was so appreciative of every single job I ever had. And I was remembering on the way here, I didn't have the best customer service, if you will, with the airline. And I could just tell the girl didn't like her job. And I thought to myself, like, there was no job I ever felt like I was above. There was no job that I didn't want to be the very best version that I could be of that job. And I feel like today's world of 20-something-year-olds that we'd be talking to with this question are more entitled, if you will, not to use that word.
No, it's very
heavily,
fair,
but
bro.
yeah.
Even when I was the number one salesperson at Lifetime Fitness, and I would go to the back and like do the towel laundries when they were short on staff
Yeah.
without anyone asking me.
But today, you know, you work at Lifetime and I'm better than this. I should be creating, you know, I feel like we're in a more entitled world than ever. And I feel like the less, you know, the word deserve is so common now. I feel like when you realize you don't deserve anything and you have to, I don't want to go get guru-y here and say you have to work for everything, but the less you realize you don't deserve anything, the less privileged you feel, the more you realize that every opportunity you get is truly grace from God and to do your best at it. I think those are traits that you need to develop in order to get into the seats that example given your
Yeah, I think the problem is in today's world, social media, everyone's, like you said earlier, is trying to create a life online that everyone else gets deceived by, that's a life that someone else lives doing that thing. And so they feel like it's always greener on the other side at all times, always, no matter what. That job is always better. That girl is always better than my girl.
But if you think that, then when you get to the seat that you're in, for example, you're still going to think that, and you're still going to, you know,
100%. Yeah.
You got to kill that out. And I think the easiest way to kill that out is to be understanding that you can make $10 an hour and be happy about it, you know, and be appreciative. You shouldn't be comfortable necessarily. You want to grow, but you should still appreciate the opportunity that you have. That's the advice I give myself.
Love it. So one more time, your Instagram handle?
Paul Daley.
Just your name.
Paul Daley.
Super easy. Can't miss that. Dude, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for
this
having
was
me, man.
awesome. This was super productive. I loved all the stories, all the lessons that you learned. Cool to know you're actually my age now. Good to know, because this morning I was heavily deceived. I was like, man, fuck, he's that young? That's crazy. I was just like, CEO of Iman Ghazi at like 22. Like, it was just all this stuff going through my head. So really cool. It makes a lot of sense why you're so mature, gray head on your shoulders. You've always been that way. Every time we text it, it's always very high level, mature conversation. So thanks for flying out. Thanks for making it on the show. Everyone, please give him a follow. Connect with him if you're in the info product space. Even in the agency space, Paul's an awesome guy. Always willing to give. So thanks a lot for jumping on, bro.
Thank you for having me, man. Genuinely. This is one to end that I was truly excited for. So thank you.
Thank you, bro. Thanks so much for watching another episode of the Bad Marketing Podcast. I hope you got immense value from it. And if you did, all we ask of you is that you share this with a friend that you think could find this very valuable. And depending on the platform that you're watching or listening to this on, please like, subscribe, or rate the podcast as best as possible. It really means a lot to us. We pour so much money, time, and effort into getting these guests here, filming all this, editing it, all for free, just to give you free value. And all we ask in return is that you just share this with people. You give it a positive review so that we can continue to reach more people and impact more lives with all this effort that we're putting in. With that being said, thanks so much for tuning into the episode, and I look forward to continue to provide you more valuable content moving forward on the Bad Marketing Podcast. Make sure you subscribe.